We're diving into everything George Pickens today on the Cowboys Report. Tom Downey here with you again, and this time, ESPN's Jeremy Fowler has dropped some comments that immediately caught my attention, especially considering how much the rest of the NFC East has been talking about this move. According to Fowler, the trade for George Pickens didn't just make a minor ripple, it sent a shockwave through the entire division. It's one of those acquisitions that forces your rivals to stop what they're doing and ask, okay, how do we adjust to this? That doesn't happen often for the Cowboys, especially in recent years when the front office has mostly been cautious and sometimes hesitant to swing for the fences in free agency or the trade market. Before we break down what this means for Dallas and why it has so many people buzzing, I have to ask for your help. We are about 1,000 likes behind in our June-like battle against the 49ers report. This is our last chance to catch them before the month ends. So, if you want to support the channel, smash that thumbs up button on today's video. It takes a second, and it really helps. So here's what Jeremy Fowler said that made me pause and smile. He reported that NFC East teams have been talking behind the scenes about the impact of the Pickens trade, and that some coaches and front office folks believe he can absolutely tilt the field for Dallas. In Fowler's words, Pickens is already recognized as one of the best contested catch receivers in the league, a player whose body control and athleticism down the field create a dimension the Cowboys didn't have. That's not small praise, especially when it comes from rival scouts who have every incentive to downplay what Dallas is doing. Of course, there's no denying that part of the reason he was available in the first place was the maturity questions that followed him in Pittsburgh. Whether it was frustrations about his role, a few too many missed meetings, or just the occasional sideline outburst, Pickens had some moments that raised eyebrows. But when you listen to folks close to him, a lot of it boils down to his desire to be heavily involved in the offense, to make sure the passing game was functioning properly, and to get the ball in his hands. In Dallas, he's walking into a situation where the quarterback is proven, where the offensive identity is already established, and where he can be the complementary piece to CeeDee Lamb, rather than feeling like he has to carry the entire passing game by himself. That, to me, is the most intriguing part. The Cowboys are betting that a contract year, a stable locker room, and a more dynamic offense will keep Pickens motivated and focused. And if that happens, it could pay off in a massive way. When was the last time you heard rivals in the NFC East talking about a Cowboys move as something they genuinely had to plan around? You just don't hear that very often. That alone should have fans excited. Let's talk about what he does for this offense. My personal view is that George Pickens has the skill set to be what I call an elevator. There aren't many receivers in the NFL who, by themselves, raise the floor and the ceiling of an entire offense. CeeDee Lamb is obviously that kind of player. But after him, the Cowboys had a lot of guys who were solid contributors, Jalen Tolbert, Jake Ferguson, but not necessarily players who scare a defense into adjusting. Pickens is that kind of talent. He has already shown he can produce around 1,000 yards in a season, even with spotty quarterback play. Now he comes to Dallas, where the offense is far more stable, and he'll be lining up opposite one of the best receivers in the game. His highlight reel catches are only part of what makes him such a valuable addition. Statistically, he has been among the NFL's most productive receivers on go routes and comeback routes. And if you've watched much Dak Prescott football, you know how often those comeback routes come up, sometimes to the point of frustration. But that's exactly the type of timing and vertical-based game Pickens thrives in. He'll spend most of his snaps working on the outside around the numbers, which allows CeeDee Lamb to keep doing what he does best, eating up the middle of the field, creating yards after the catch, and drawing defensive attention. That combination of skill sets fits together like puzzle pieces. I also think this move helps you unlock more flexibility in your formations. With Pickens and Lamb as your two main wideouts, you don't have to feel pressured to put Tolbert or Mingo or Kevontae Turpin on the field every down. You can lean more on two tight end sets if you want, which could even help the running game. Whether it's Luke Schoonmaker or Peyton Hendershot out there, you have more options now because you finally have two receivers who demand respect from a defense. One of the biggest issues with this offense last season was how predictable it became when teams realized there was really only one true game-breaking threat. That led to countless situations where the play call boiled down to Dak and Lamb. Go figure it out. When that worked, it was spectacular. But when defenses were able to take away Lamb or roll coverage his way, you saw the entire offense stall. Pickens changes that. He forces defenses to pick their poison, and that's exactly how you create more space for everyone, whether it's CeeDee, the tight ends, or even Tony Pollard on the ground. If you're excited about Pickens, I want to hear from you. On a scale of 1 to 10, how hyped are you about this trade? Drop your number down in the comments. I think most fans are in the 7 to 9 range, and I get it. This is the most dynamic addition they've made to the receiver room since Amari Cooper was in his prime. Now, there are obvious concerns worth acknowledging. This is a one-year deal, which means if he plays exactly the way we hope, he's a free agent after the season. The upside is undeniable, but it's not a risk-free move. If it doesn't work out, you burned a third-round pick for what might be a frustrating rental. If it does work out, you have to figure out a way to pay him to stick around. Then there are the maturity questions. We've all seen the stories late to meetings, fines for missing them altogether, occasional friction with teammates. Even the infamous Christmas practice he skipped because he didn't know what time it was supposed to start. Those are things you'd expect a veteran to have figured out by now. He may need some babysitting, some mentorship. Fortunately, it sounds like CeeDee Lamb has already stepped up to help him acclimate and be the steady voice in his ear. But you have to factor those variables in because the Cowboys didn't get him at a discount for no reason. Still, when you look at the upside, it's hard not to get excited. This is the kind of move that can elevate an entire offense and change the narrative around your team. No, I'm not going to sit here and say it guarantees a Super Bowl. But I do think it makes you a more credible playoff contender. And after the step back this roster took last year, that alone is worth celebrating. We're closing in on 218,000 subscribers, and it's all thanks to you. If you haven't already joined our community, hit that sub button at youtube.com/cowboyst. We'll have more on Pickens, on the Cowboys' plans for the rest of the offseason, and on every angle of this upcoming season. So once again, ESPN's Jeremy Fowler says the NFC East is on full alert, and they're treating this as a real needle mover. I agree with that assessment. There's risk, but the upside could be exactly what the Cowboys need to take the next step. Maybe this isn't the year we finally say it's championship or bust, but it is the year you can see this offense taking a big leap forward. Let me know what you think in the comments. Will George Pickens be the difference maker this team has been searching for?